Okay, so thank you very much for being here. So welcome to how to use AdWords to generate red hot leads in 90 minutes. So I am going to make the slides available to those of you who remain till the end of the session. What I'm going to do is give you a link to download the slides, which will be on my site, and you can then go and download the slides, and then you can leave a little comment if you like on the WordPress blog page that you can download it from at the end. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so part of the presentation I'm going to be doing is going to be on PowerPoint, and then for the rest of the presentation I'm actually going to be jumping into Google itself and using AdWords itself. I'm sure you'll be pleased to hear, because that's after all what you're here to learn. So I just want to explain to you just very briefly that today's free training is brought to you by a product that I'm launching called Red Hot Web Leads, which I'm literally just launching today. And so at the end of today I'm going to give you an offer for a product, but only at the very end of the presentation and only when I've delivered on the promises that I made to you all. But I just want to very briefly mention that the name of it's Red Hot Web Leads, and it's where I show people how to set up and manage their AdWords accounts to deliver red hot leads through their websites. Okay, so you'll hear more about that at the end of the presentation. Okay, so you're in the right place today if you own any small business and you're struggling to get affordable leads through your website. So maybe you've got a website that's not getting any leads in at all. Maybe you've got a website that's getting a few leads but you think it should do more, or maybe you're brand new and you haven't thought about getting a website but you'd like to know if it's actually worth it. Okay, so secondly, you might be an internet marketer who's thinking about using AdWords, and you've heard that it drains your cash, so you'd like to figure out how to use it before you let it drain your cash. And thirdly, you might be interested in becoming AdWords qualified yourself and offering AdWords services, because you know it's quite a good career choice to make. So I've trained a lot of people in becoming AdWords qualified themselves. So here's what you're going to learn today. You're going to learn how to set up your AdWords account for success. So you're going to learn how to generate leads normally within minutes if your account is already set up and activated. Then if you set it up correctly, then you can start getting leads in within minutes. I did do a course in London on Monday and Tuesday. I had the chap leave me a testimonial today saying that yeah, the results were that quick. You know, they do come in extremely fast. You'll also learn how to avoid leaking cash. So how to avoid the three normally extremely expensive common mistakes that all new AdWords advertisers make. So I do a lot of account audits. You can see the link to get a free audit on my website, clairejarrett.com, that most of you came through. And in these audits, it is about 95% of the time everybody makes the same mistakes. I've audited so many accounts. Everybody makes the same mistakes, even if they think they've gone all the way through the AdWords materials, even if they think they've learned it. You know, it is so common to make these mistakes, unfortunately. And I'm also going to show you my 5 top tips to get your AdWords account bringing in motivated buyers into your website. And then I'm also going to show you how to stop competitors from clicking your ads. Now, this is probably the #1 question I get asked by people, is how can I prevent competitors from clicking it? People have heard that competitors will just keep clicking your AdWords ads. There's no point in advertising because you'll just get clicked off the front page. They'll use all your budget up. So, you know, it's my #1 question that I get asked. So I will show you exactly how you can prevent them from doing that, and it is possible to prevent them from doing it. Okay, so a little bit about me and how I got here. I did my first degree finishing in 2000, which was in math, statistics and computing. I then worked in the NHS for my sins in medical statistics, mainly using spreadsheets, working on waiting list information. So that was between 2000 and 2003. I then went back and trained in 2003 to become a teacher. And I then taught for 3 years in secondary schools. I was teaching my main subject, IT, and then business studies as well. Then in 2006, I started teaching some parents after school and realised that I really enjoyed it, because obviously I realised that I really enjoyed training adults. So then I decided that I would investigate training adults part-time, and I started freelancing as a freelance IT trainer, where I was paid £200 a day to train in PowerPoint, Excel, etc., those type of things. But I soon found out that the company was charging me out at £900 a day. So obviously this didn't seem very fair. So I decided that I would set up my own training company and get the whole of the £900 instead, as you do. You know, why get £200 when you could be paid the £900 per day? So that was the idea. So that set me off on my next journey, which was, so I did this next step while I was still teaching part-time. And I became totally obsessed with web marketing, and Computer Training Solutions was born, which was the first IT training company that I set up. And I set up my first website in Microsoft Front Page, which is a ghastly, horrible system that some of you will have heard of. And so no laughing if you've used it and if you know what it's like. But it was the best I could do at the time using my skills. But I tell you what, it worked. And I then looked at online information. I bought every course going. I learned SEO as well as AdWords. I basically did everything I could to try and figure out how to get this website selling on the web. And I soon realized that it really worked when the first clients that came through were the RAC. They came through and booked 12 courses in one go, and that was it. From then on, I was absolutely hooked because I was off. You know, I'd made a really big sale. I could see the power of it. And from then on, I started improving the site, making the site better, looking at landing pages and making the AdWords campaign as good as it could be. And I was spending £2,000 a month on AdWords, and then eventually built it up to a monthly turnover of 30,000 a year, 30,000 a month within the first year. And that was with 4 different training centres. And as you can imagine, I very quickly had to give up my teaching job. So I think this was by the April I had to give up my teaching job because it was just so busy with the IT training company because of the power of AdWords, and that was where AdWords got me. So because obviously I was running an IT training company and I was doing Excel courses, PowerPoint courses, and hiring people to do so for me, I realized that this AdWords that I discovered was actually going to be really useful for small business owners as well. So using my background in teaching and in preparing courses and processes, etc., I developed the first public AdWords courses on the market where people could actually book on and attend. Public courses being where you can actually book onto a course and you attend with other people from other companies. So I held those bi-monthly, so I was holding them in Bristol and London, which I still do today. And I've trained lots of other web marketing agencies, some of which are really successful and you'll have heard of, some of them not quite as much so. So I've trained other agencies in-house when they started up, such as Gold Search, Lavora, RH Advertising, and lots of others. Marketing departments of larger companies such as Fast Hosts and Names.co.uk. E-commerce website teams such as Wheelies and David Shuttle. And then lots of business owners in more industries than I could name, to be honest. Florists, locksmiths, builders, gyms, you name it. I've probably worked in that industry. So I've now worked in, I've trained hundreds of people in lots of different industries. And from then, I wrote my first book back in 2009, which was published as a hard copy book, which was actually for sale on, went for sale on Amazon and eBay and into bookshops. And that was called Successful Google AdWords Strategies. Now, because it goes out of date, because AdWords goes out of date so quickly, because the interface changes so quickly, I then updated that totally and rewrote it in 2012 and wrote a new one, which was called How to Get Selling Fast on AdWords. And then in 2009, I then also recorded an AdWords DVD set, which again I no longer sell because it's so out of date. That's how fast things move on. 4 years later, it's just extremely AdWords just moves on so fast, it's very out of date now. And I soon started receiving lots of referrals for AdWords inquiries, because once I trained somebody, what was happening is people would say, right, okay, that's great, we need more help now, can you help us out? We realise how time consuming it is, can you do it for us? And before long, my next company was born, which was Marketing by Web, which is still in existence today, which I built from 2009 up until 2012, and I built the agency up to 65 monthly clients, and I built it up to 50 clients before I actually started taking staff on, and that was, as you can imagine, that was quite a tough few months, managing that number of clients by myself. But then I started taking on staff, mainly graduates that obviously I trained myself in-house, because obviously I had the skills to train them. And they're still #1 for AdWords managers and a variety of other terms. And in that company, I developed lots of processes. I actually worked with eMyth, that some of you may have heard of. So I worked with an eMyth coach for a year and a half, developing processes for setups of AdWords campaigns, managing AdWords campaigns, and then reporting back to clients. And I then sold the agency back in November to concentrate on consulting and then also training. So here I am today. So today I'm still the top ranked AdWords trainer in Google worldwide, so a position I've held since 2008. I'm working as a consultant with a handful of larger clients such as names.co.uk, as well as some other marketing agencies, some of which obviously I can't name, or many of which I can't name because of NDAs. And then I also manage a few smaller business accounts, but then I'm also developing my training courses to reach more business owners. So let's get started. Right, so I've got a question here saying, is the webinar being recorded? Yes, it is. I just wanted to answer that question. Yes, it is being recorded. It's the first time I've recorded a webinar. I'm hoping it's going to work. And I will release it if it does work, but there's a chance that it might not. So that was a question in answer to Mark. Mark who asked that question. So I hope that answers your question. So what is the overall aim with AdWords? A lot of people don't realize that the overall aim with AdWords is to make sure that your adverts match what people type. Okay, so that's quite simple and basic, but whatever people type into Google, that's what your adverts need to say. So I am going to jump into AdWords in very shortly, but I've got a demonstration on the page that I can show you here that shows the same thing. I can see that we've got florists in Bristol as the keyword term that somebody's typed. So keyword term, keyword phrase, I use them all interchangeably, even keywords. Lots of the time I use that to mean a phrase of keywords, okay, just so that you're familiar with the terminology. A keyword is not just the word in or the word Bristol. A keyword is the whole phrase, florists in Bristol. So somebody here has typed in florists in Bristol, because obviously they want to look for a local florist, local to me, as I'm sure you can probably tell from the Bristolian twang that I've been told that I've got, that I'm searching for a florist local to me. So florists in Bristol. So what I want you to pay attention to is the fact that the one that we've got at the top, serenataflowers.com, can you see that in the heading, florists in Bristol is highlighted in bold? Okay, so I'm just going to point my mouse at that as well. So florists in Bristol. Okay, oops. Do apologise. That's it, there we go. Okay, so we've got florists in Bristol in bold. We've also then got flowers in bold. That's because Google realizes that flowers and florist are close enough that it's also willing to put that in bold. Then we've also got Edith Wilmot underneath, again florists in Bristol in bold, and the same with Interflora. So we've got the top three here which have got the keywords are in the heading. Can you see that? So we've got the keywords in the heading and they're in bold. Now, Google got to being the #1 search engine from relevance because it gave people what they wanted to see. And that's what it wants to see in its adverts as well. So you can see the adverts that we've got on the right. So we've got flowers still in bold here, but no mention of Bristol. This advert will have a lot less clicks. It will have a lot lower click-through rate. So click-through rate means the proportion of people that see the advert that click it. So we've got flowers here in bold, but then there's no mention of Bristol, so this one would end up with a much lower click-through rate. Justflowers.com underneath, florist in Bristol, so the singular, so we've got florist rather than florist, is still in bold, so you can see that they've managed to get away with that there. So your aim is to make sure that your advert matches what people type. It really is as simple as that. So a very, very common mistake I see is that people try and put about 50 or 100 keywords in one group with one advert. Now, how can that one advert have all of those 50 keywords in the heading? It's just not possible. Okay, so I've got a question from Ashley saying, how do you know what people will type? So what you need to do is you need to do keyword research, which is a topic we're about to come on to next. So keyword research is where you do your best guessing for what people might actually type. Okay, so the only way of telling is by looking at a keyword research tool and asking Google or Word Tracker or Keyword Spy or any other keyword tool that you choose that you want to use. And you do keyword research and find out what it's possible people might type. And there is research that's been done on this because Google knows that if somebody types one term, then they're also interested in other things, that they might have typed something slightly differently. So we're about to come on to this now. Okay, so we'll move now on to keyword research. So somebody's typed in, we've got Bob here saying for research, can you use Google Analytics? Probably not. I wouldn't generally tend to use Google Analytics for keyword research. I would generally tend to stick to one of the keyword research tools. Or you can actually run reports on the type of keywords that people have been using to find your website. But that's more of an advanced topic. So I'll just leave it at that for now, if that's okay, Bob. So we would start off with keyword research. Keywords are the most important part of your campaign so that you know what type of keywords people might use. And to start with, I've got somebody here saying, what keyword tool would you recommend? I start with the Google AdWords keyword tool because it's free. So on my Google AdWords courses, all we use is the Google AdWords keyword tool. It's fine to get started with, it's free, and all you do is you enter a starting keyword phrase and then it then comes back with related suggestions. So right, I'm going to come back to the rest of the questions in a minute, chaps, if that's okay. Oops. Right, I'm going to jump now into AdWords. Okay, so within your AdWords account, oh goodness, I nearly forgot the word then, that's the pressure of a webinar. Within your AdWords account, I want you to go to Tools and Analysis and then Keyword Tool. And that's where you'll find the keyword tool. It's as simple as that. And what you will find is a tool that allows you to search for related keywords to your products and services. So let's say that I was to do some keyword research on one of the products that I offer, for example, AdWords courses. So I would start off with a starting phrase. You would start with whatever one of your products or services was. You need to make sure that you're on keyword ideas, not ad group ideas. So make sure you're on keyword ideas. We don't need to put the website in. I don't bother with that. I don't bother putting a category in. and I don't bother clicking only show the ideas closely related because I want as many keywords as possible. And I then just click on search. And what then happens is we get a big long list of keywords. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. So I've got a big long list of keywords that Google comes up with for me that are closely related to the term that I typed in. Now at this point, when you do this, you'll realize that some of these are good keywords and some of them are bad keywords. Now that's a good thing, because if Google's telling you, I think this is closely related, what would have happened if you hadn't have done this exercise is your adverts would have accidentally shown against the terms that you can see here. So this is a really good exercise to do to make sure that you can identify negative keywords. And negative keywords are the things you do not want to show for. Okay, so that's where you can save yourself money. So what we do on this page is we download it. So download all the search results, and you'll need to have Excel or OpenOffice installed for this, and then download it. Okay, I'm then going to open it with Excel and then click on OK. And what I then do is just start looking through and thinking, right, okay, that's a good keyword. That's a good keyword. Right, that one I don't want to show for because they're not looking for a course. Okay, because they're looking for management instead. What I would then do is I would highlight the row, right click, I would cut it and then move it to the second tab and then paste it like this. And I would then right click on the tab, rename it and then call it negatives. Okay, because those are the keywords that I do not want. Let me just lengthen that a minute. Okay, so I would go through here and identify all of the keywords that I did want and all of the keywords that I didn't want. Now, some of these you might think to yourself, right, okay, so Google AdWords I don't want to show for, but I don't want that to be a negative, so I'm just going to delete that one, delete that one, delete. Okay, so there's a few here that you can see I would probably delete. Okay, and what will happen is you'll end up with a list of keywords that you do want to bid on. Okay, so I'm just going to answer a couple of questions that I've got coming up here. So I've got somebody, I'll answer the first question first, which is from Richard. So are services like SpyFu and Keyword Spy worth paying for? Keyword Spy I do pay for. Because it shows me competitor research. So yes, I do, but for beginners it's not necessary. So for people who come on my first course, they don't bother at that stage. You probably only need it when you get to the really advanced stuff. Ricardo said, how do I recognize the difference between good and bad words? So you know your market better than I do. Okay, what you can see is that I was deleting words that I could think to myself, that person won't buy my product. That's why it's better for you to be doing this than me or anybody else. Because you know if that keyword represents somebody that actually might buy from you. Far better than anybody else ever can. So this is where you're going to have to use your intuition, and you'll start getting better at this over time, looking through each keyword and thinking, right, if somebody typed that, what's in their mind? Are they then likely to pick up the phone and call me? Or are they likely to then buy my product? If the answer is no, you probably need to delete it. So I've got another question from, I can't see your full name there, apologies. So I think it might be Selma. Why wouldn't you put those in negative, which you've just deleted? Well, the trouble is that some of them I deleted were things. Apologies, Salman. Yes, apologies. I've just been corrected with the full name. Apologies for that. So the trouble is if I was to delete or remove words like Google AdWords or AdWords, I would prevent other words from showing that I did want to show. Okay, so that's why some of them I was thinking, right, okay, actually I just don't, let me just undo some of the ones I just deleted. That actually, if if I put AdWord as a negative, then that might actually be quite dangerous because I might stop AdWord course from showing, for example. So in this case, I'm just going to delete it. It's only the ones that I'm adding as a negative that I'm thinking, right, okay, those definitely don't need to be there, and those definitely are going to be resulting in somebody that doesn't want to buy from me. Okay. Right. Okay. So I've then got another, right, I've got a couple more questions coming up here. So Ian says, are these questions a broad match? Ian, for the purposes of today, where it's a beginners webinar, all of these keywords are broad match, so we don't come on to any other things at this stage, because this is just for beginners at the moment. Then we'd explain the other things further down the line. Okay, somebody else, Mary has asked, how relevant are the global searches and the local monthly searches? Well, I mean, to be honest, I don't tend to look at anything apart from the keywords. So you can see that Mary's referring to the numbers here. So we've got like global monthly searches, 18,100 for AdWords management, 2,900 for AdWords management. I don't tend to pay that much attention to them because my aim is to try and build as big a keyword list as possible. Having said that, if something has got a really high number, then I might pay it a little bit more attention. So I suppose I would judge it according to the market. Okay, so apologies is a bit of a woolly answer there, but I think I probably would play it according to the market there. Okay, so I've got another question. What should I do with words that have two completely different meanings? Is that what you mean, Alicia? What should I do with words that have two? I would probably be tempted to leave them in, I think. Two completely different meanings. I'd probably leave them in because you don't want to risk cutting out the one that you do want. So I think I'd probably be tempted to put it in. What does low and high competition mean? So that's how many advertisers there are. So if it's low, then there's not many people advertising on it. If it's high, then it means that there are a lot of people advertising on it. So it's, you know, it's as simple as that. Okay, so what I would do is identify at least a handful of keywords. So what we do on our AdWords courses is at this stage we identify anywhere between 5 and 25 keywords that we do want to bid on. Okay, so I would keep going through this spreadsheet at this stage. So let's move back into the presentation. Which one were we on? Apologies, I've forgotten which slide we were on. I thought we were only on slide 5. Aha, there we are. Okay, so I just demonstrated the keyword tool to you. Now your aims are to choose a handful of keywords to start with and then take out poor keywords as negatives. I would then save your spreadsheet and then over the coming days go through all of them. So there was actually 580 keywords in my list. So I would start doing this bit by bit to try and add as many as I could. Some will then become negative keywords, and I'll show you where to put those in a minute, and that will be what saves you the money. Now the key here is each keyword will become an ad group and then have a matching advert. Okay, so bearing in mind that earlier I showed you that the idea is that your keyword should appear in the heading in bold. The only way of doing that is by making each of those keywords in its own ad group so it's got its own advert. Okay, so oops. Okay. Right then, okay, I've got a lot of questions coming through. I think what I'll do is I'll just go through the next bit and then come back and answer a couple of questions in a minute if that's okay with you. So I'm now going to show you what you're going to do with the keywords because I'm hoping that it's actually going to answer some of the questions along the way as well. And at the same time, I'm going to demonstrate setting up campaign settings as well. So I'm going to demonstrate using just one keyword to set up an ad group and at the same time I'm going to show you the campaign settings and what my suggested settings are. And I'm going to talk you through some of them. Okay, so I'm going to pop back into campaigns. Okay, so hopefully you'll be able to see a screen similar to this. So we've got all the tabs across here. We've then got navigation on the left here as well. I've got no campaigns live in this one because this is a test one for me. But normally you would be able to see campaigns down the left-hand side. So I would go to New Campaign, and for the purposes of this, you always want to set up a search network campaign. So Display Network, that's a series of blogs and forums across the web. There are places where your ad will get shown which are bad places because people are not searching for what you sell. There are blogs and forums on related topics or on sometimes totally unrelated topics. They show in Gmail, etc. So that's what the Display Network is. Yours must be search network only. Okay, so that's one of the keys. Campaign name, I'm going to call mine, I've done quite a few test campaigns in here, so I'm going to pick 15 and hope that that's a lucky number. And making sure it says search network only, which it should do. And I'm then going to start quickly explaining some of these options to you. So networks, Google search networks, should I include the search partners? I always include the search partners because that's nothing to do with the display network. It's a series of related search engines. Places like Ask Jeeves and then Orange, I've noticed, also have their own small search engine. Places that don't run their own advertising platforms. And at the end of the day, they still have people on there that are looking for your products and services. It just means it's not Google. So I always leave that on. So we'll leave that one on there. Okay, we'll just scroll down quickly. Now, I'm not going to talk you through every setting here because obviously that would take a very long period of time. I'm just going to mention to you that it would be a good idea to enter a default bid here. So the bid is how much you're willing to pay for every single click. So you might want to put in 50 pence or £1 or something similar. And you would then want to put in a daily budget. So this is going to be how much you're willing to spend per day. For a test budget, probably just a couple of pounds per day is what we normally put in on my courses. And then, as I said, we're not going to look at all of these options today. So these are obviously quite advanced, some of these settings in here. This is all you need to worry about just to get a campaign up and running. So we then click on Save and Continue. Okay, so that was our basic campaign settings. And I would then jump into creating the first ad group. Now, my suggested best practice is that whatever the keyword is, I call the ad group it as well. So it just makes it easier. So if I can tell just by looking at the ad groups what keywords inside. Okay, so my ad group name is here going to be AdWords courses. Okay. And I would then make sure that because I've already shown you that the headline should match the keywords, the heading of the advert, I always put the keywords in there. Now you can look to see what I've done here is I've used something called title case. Obviously AdWords has got a capital A and W here, so it's slightly different, but still in title case with a capital A at the start of AdWords and a capital C at the start of courses. Now, title case has been proven statistically significantly, beyond doubt, to increase click-through rate. So it means more people click it if it's in title case. So you may as well make the best of that and make sure that you write your advert entirely in title case. So something that I find really works for adverts as well. So one of my favorite little tips is to ask a question. So I might put something like want expert AdWords training. Okay, and the question they subconsciously think yes to. Okay, so it needs to be a question they subconsciously thinks yes to. Right, I've got a few questions coming up. Some of them I'm going to need to come back and answer. But one, I've got somebody saying, what about all caps title? Unfortunately, that would get banned. It just wouldn't pass. It just basically the advert would get disapproved. So you can't use all caps, you can only use title case. Okay, so I hope that answers that question. So asking the question is a good idea. Putting numbers in is a good idea as well. So if I was to say, right, 11th and 12th of June, whoops, in Bristol. Okay, and then I can then have an exclamation mark. So they can be numbers of any type. They could be, if it's a product you're selling, it could be £23.50. If it is dates, as I've done here, you could include dates. If it's a 50% discount you're offering, but ideally you want to put a number in because then your advert would be the one that's showing up that is standing out compared to all of your competitors. When it then comes to the display URL, what you want to do is put the website address, okay, and then we can put a / and we can then put one of our keywords on the end. Okay, so it doesn't have to be a real URL, a real web address. Display URL is just where you put your main web address, but then a / and you can then put one of your keywords on the end. So sometimes, today I was writing some ads where I was putting little sneaky things on the end, like 50% off and things like that. So that's a good little sneaky tip to pop on as well. Now, when it comes to destination URL, that won't pass because that's not my real URL. Okay, so my real one is AdWordsintro.html or something. For now, I'm just going to leave it set to the home page. Okay, and we would then enter one keyword per line, as it says. Now, I've already told you that the keyword is going to be the same as the heading and the same as the ad group. So my keyword, I'm going to put AdWords courses. Okay, then I'm going to accept the default bid and then just save it. Okay, and that then means that that will then go live with that one keyword. That means that keyword will then appear in bold in the heading, and it means that Google's going to love these adverts. Okay, so let's jump back onto the presentation. I really should have double checked what slide we were on. Apologies for making you sit through this again. Okay, so what I just did was show you how to create amazing adverts. Your keywords go into the advert heading. You then had lines 1 and 2 to do something with. Okay, so the advert heading you just don't play around with. Don't include the company name. Don't try and sneak phone numbers in. Basically, it's your keywords in the advert heading. I then want you to write in title case, which has been proven to increase click-through rate. Try asking a question, as I told you. Then try adding figures and dates in, any numbers at all, that will work. Do not include phone numbers. These days, your account would actually get banned if you try and put phone numbers on. Some of you will have already started getting your ads disapproved if you've put phone numbers in your ads. You can't do it. You have to now do it through something called a call extension. So do not put phone numbers anywhere in your advert. Do not include your company name anywhere. Just rely on your URL for that, on your website address for that. Okay, because the advert's not about you, it's not about your company, it's about them. It's about what they're searching for. And ideally, it needs to match. Okay, so those are my little tips that they should more than double your click-through rate overnight. I've seen people's click-through rates go up by, 300, 400% overnight. It should be that quick. Okay, if I've got a question saying, what if your URL is your company name? If your URL is your company name, that's absolutely fine. So yeah, that's no problem at all. Your URL is the best place to put your company name in rather than anywhere else. Okay, so I promised you I was going to show you where to put the negative keywords in, but before I do that, I just want to show you what the best thing to do with negatives is. So wherever possible, you should reduce them down to one keyword. So I've got 3 here: free courses, free online courses, get courses free. What I want to do is replace them just with the word free. Okay, and that means that just in case I've got any keywords that I haven't already identified, it means it will never show for any mention of the word free. Okay, so I'm just going to go and show where you would want to add those. Okay, so the place where you need to add negative keywords, we're in the Keywords tab. We scroll all the way to the bottom. You can see we've got an option that says negative keywords. I click on negative keywords. We don't want to add them here because that's just at the group level. My suggested way of doing it is adding it to the campaign, and that way you add it to all of the groups in the same campaign. So we would click on add and then add keywords. Yeah, there's no negative keywords in here at the moment. I'm going to add them. So I've got somebody saying they can't see anything at the moment. It's right. There's no negative keywords in here at the moment. So add keywords. Okay, and this little box is where you put the negative keywords. So this would be where you would go back to the spreadsheet and identify as many negative keywords in single keywords as possible. Okay, now some of them might end up being longer ones as well, of course. But I would suggest with things like, for me, it would be things like free, cheap, AdSense, that's something that people often search for that's related. And when you've got your list pasted in here, so you can paste that from the spreadsheet that we were creating earlier, we would then click on Save. Okay, I've got another question from somebody mentioning quality score. Quality score isn't something we're going to go on to on this webinar today. It was covered on the previous webinar I did. That you can see a recording of the previous one that I did on my YouTube channel. So you can, when I send the recording around for this one, you can just have a look on the YouTube channel, and that one goes into quality score there. So hopefully that's okay. Okay, so that then means we can then see the negative keywords. So there are people who run companies who do nothing but build lists of negative keywords. Because if you were to add in hundreds of negative keywords and stop your ads showing against irrelevant stuff, then your click-through rate would be, your click-through rate would absolutely double overnight. Okay. I've got more questions coming through. So can you update the negative keyword box at any time for that ad? That's from Sharon. You can indeed. So if I were to go into add keywords, I could add one. Oops, sorry, if I wanted to delete one, that was more to answer your question, I could then just go and click on it and delete it. Okay, like that. And then if I wanted to add some more again, okay, I could add them back again. Okay, so somebody said, why would I put free? I like that question, Giles. Why would I put a free as a negative when this is a free webinar? I don't film my webinars using AdWords. I film my webinars using Facebook and using email, because that's just the best routes to market for filling webinars. For advertising my AdWords courses, where people pay £800 to come on the 2 days, I don't want people who want free. Okay, so that's where you need to decide, right, if you've got a product which is retailing at a couple of £100, do you want to attract in people that are actually looking for free versions of that? And normally the answer to that is no. So hopefully that answers your question there, Giles. Well, I'm just going to have a quick look through some of the questions that I've missed out here. Okay, so just looking through. So Giles, you've also said, how do you do the spreadsheet? The spreadsheet, I quite literally just keep it like this, and then when I've identified a few keywords, whoops, sorry, in fact, let's cut them. When I've identified a few keywords, so let's say I wanted to keep just these four, I would just save it as that. And then I would go, right, this one now needs to become a new group, this one needs to become a new group, and I would just copy and paste it in there. You know, it's as simple as that. Okay, I've got Maggie said, what's the benefit of having different ads for each keyword rather than using the keyword insertion tool? Well, the benefit is that your keyword then appears in the heading. If your keyword's in the heading, people are more likely to click it because it's in bold, but also Google's happier as well. So Google's happier, obviously you heard me briefly answer a question then about quality score. Quality score is a factor that we don't have time to cover today, unfortunately, but it's what affects the cost of your clicks. And basically it means that if you've got the keyword in every ad, your cost is cheaper. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question there, Maggie. Okay. Right, Laura, I like to use competition versus volume of searches to identify high volume keywords with low competition. You could do that. It depends really. I mean, there is something else that I teach people, which is the keyword pathway, where people tend to go down a series of searches, and people will start off with a high-level expensive search. One of the examples I give is digital cameras. So they might start off looking for a digital camera, then they might decide that they want a Nikon, then they might decide that they want a Nikon 1410 model, and then they might start then refining that search with Nikon 1410 camera prices. You know, so there's different searches that people do to refine it. And I use that to identify whether or not we should be bidding at each level of keyword. So digital cameras, that level of keyword, Laura, normally isn't a good idea. So for some people, a keyword is so competitive that to bid at that level before people have made their mind up, it probably isn't the best of ideas. So I'm hoping that that answers your question. Somebody wants to know why they can't put really long keywords into the negative keyword list. Ideally, identify the one word in your really long keyword that you want to add as a negative and add that. Okay, so wherever possible, add a single word that will prevent any mention of that word ever showing ever. So, and yes, Bob, negative keywords are to make sure that there's better targeting of AdWords and to stop you wasting money. You don't want to waste money. And David, yes, it does help if you have keywords within the URLs as well. Okay, but I did just show you a little way of tweaking it so it appeared as if you had keywords in your URL. Okay. Right, so we're on slide 16. I'll make sure I remember that this time so that we jump to the right one. Okay. So I showed you how adding in negatives should save you hundreds of pounds, and as I mentioned, people build entire businesses doing nothing but adding negative keywords to stop your ads showing for irrelevant things and to save you lots and lots of money. Okay, so we're now going to jump over to identifying competitors clicking your adverts. This, as I mentioned before, is my number one question that people ask me, is how can I stop competitors from clicking your adverts? And they can click repeatedly, and they will. So that's not in every market. There's some markets where I suppose people just wouldn't do that type of thing. You know, it's just not the done thing. You know, particularly when I've been working with charities. Charities wouldn't click each other's ads randomly. It's just not something they do. But unfortunately, having worked with a lot of locksmiths and other markets, in a similar thing, they click each other's ads non-stop. And they can, and they will, and they do. Okay, so the best way of stopping them is by getting their IP address. And that's a big long number that looks like this example I'm showing you here. So 19.168.25, blah, blah, blah. And there's a tool there called Clicky that I've shown you how to use where you can get their IP address. So Google Analytics will not give you this information. Clicky does. And it's code that you need to install on your website, so it won't work retrospectively. So if you install it today, unfortunately it won't show you the data from the past month or so. You install it today and it then starts running from today onwards. So it's code you need to pop on your website to give your web designer to put on. And then once it's up and running for a few days, you then look at the most active visitors tab for suspicious repeated clicks and you write down their IP addresses. Okay, so once you've got their IP addresses, you can stop them. So I've got a couple more questions here. So Geraint has said, would Google bar you if you used your competitors' names as your AdWords headline? That's an interesting one. It depends how big the competitor is, and it's unlikely that Google themselves would ban you. It's more likely the competitor would complain. If it's a trademarked term, then you won't be able to. But generally, it's not suggested best practice. You can bid on their keywords, but just don't. So I'm going to go against my own advice here. If it's competitors' names you're bidding on, don't put their name in the heading, because you're pretending to be them, and that's the bit that will get you into trouble. So there's no problem with actually bidding on their keywords. So Karen's asked, someone told me that Google stopped people from clicking on your ad. Karen, what they do is, I see this with my husband. My husband's a locksmith, and a competitor will click 10 times and they'll refund 9 of them. In the locksmith market, where clicks are anywhere up to £15–20 each, £20 a day, £140 a week, even if just once, means that if you've got one competitor doing it a day, all it takes is a couple to start doing it, and then 3 or 4 to start doing it, and you can start to see how they will still put you out of business. So the easiest thing to do is to just take their IP addresses out rather than relying on Google. So yes, they'll give you your money back for everything but the first click. It's unlikely. Somebody's asked what if they use an IP changer. This is presuming that they don't. This is presuming that you've got people who are fairly, locksmiths generally aren't tech-savvy people who would know how to use an IP changer. To be honest, I don't know how to use an IP changer, so I probably wouldn't be tempted to, to try that. And then Ricardo has also then said, when you say having their IP address, what do you do? Well, what you do is what I'm about to show you. And what you would do is you would go into the campaign and you would prevent those IP addresses from seeing the adverts at all. So they think you've stopped advertising because that IP address is not allowed to see the adverts. It's blocked permanently. So what I need to do is go into settings. I'm then going to click on change the campaign settings. I'm then scrolling to the bottom. Okay, and I've then got, oh, my options disappeared. Wonderful. Okay, I had this the other day on a course. Let me go back to one of my other campaigns. Okay, I'm going to show you the option that I'm looking at, that I'm looking for. And then I need to figure out afterwards why it's only showing for some of them. Okay. I love it how AdWords changes so often that I can be doing a course 1 minute and then the next minute it shows and the next minute it doesn't. Okay, so it's in the settings for this campaign, but it's not for the other ones. And I need to investigate how to turn that back on, because I'm sure lots of you like me won't be able to see it in your campaign. Okay, so I'm going to research the answer for that, and when I email you all tomorrow with the recording, I will let you know how to turn this tab on, because what you're looking for is this, IP exclusions, but for some reason, as you just saw, it wasn't visible in every campaign. Okay, so we've got IP exclusions. Manage IP exclusions, we're then going to click on edit, and we would then pop the IP address in there. So 196.145.13.13, whatever the IP address was, you would type it in there. Okay, and then save it. Okay, let me just show you. I think I've got long enough. I'll just take a couple of minutes to show you very quickly, because I'm sure you'll all want to know. I'll show you Clicky Live, and I will show you the type of where to get the IP addresses. So this would be what it looks like. Now, Clicky is free for the first person. For the first website. So you won't have to pay for it. It's just for one website. I've got somebody saying, can I exclude countries? You could, ideally, when you set a campaign up, mine defaulted to the United Kingdom, so you wouldn't need to exclude countries. You would only have it showing in the countries that you wanted to, so you wouldn't need to exclude any. So if I go to this website here, this is the type of information that you would see. Okay, so this will be what yours looks like when it goes live. And I would then go to visitors. And the tab that you want to be looking at is the most active visitors. You want to see people that keep coming back. So most active visitors. If I was to set that to, let's say, the last 14 days, I would be looking for people that had made a lot of visits. Okay, so let's say that I was to look at this IP address because they've made 3 visits. Okay. Now, nobody on this website is likely to be fraudulent activity, so unfortunately I'm unlikely to be able to find an example I want to block for real. So you're just going to have to imagine with me, unfortunately. And what we would do is look to see, right, they came back on this day, they came back on this day, they came back on this day, but they spent 14 minutes, then 10 minutes, but then this time they spent 10 seconds. What I would be looking for is those people that made a lot of visits that lasted 10 seconds. Okay, because those people that are only jumping on and off your website for a couple of seconds, those are the clickers. And I would be looking for people that have clicked repeatedly throughout the day. Now here, next to here, if this had come from AdWords, you would see a little green dollar sign. None of these have come from paid traffic. So what you would be looking for is people who've made lots of visits and that have got lots of these green dollar signs, because that's showing you they've clicked your advert lots of times. This person, none of the visits have come from Google, because none of them got the green dollar sign. Okay, so unfortunately I don't have any live examples that I can show you there at the moment. Okay, but let's say we did want to block their IP address. I would quite simply highlight that, and I would then pop it into there. Okay, so copy and paste it in there and save it. And that would then exclude it for that campaign. Okay, so I've got somebody asking a question about if you exclude it from just one campaign, does it exclude them from all of the campaigns? No, and it's a real pain that it doesn't. You have to do this for every campaign. So what I would do is build a list of, on a weekly basis, be going through looking for suspicious visitors, build a list of 10 or so, or hopefully you've got a lot less than that. I would hope that you've not got that many people acting suspiciously on your website. So get a list of as many as you can, and then copy and paste the list into IP exclusions for every one of your campaigns. Okay, so somebody, Giles asking how many campaigns should you be running in the first place? The answer is as many as you need. So quite often what I have is I have one set up for national searches, and then one set up for, well, I might have one set up for different brands. I might have one set up just running locally around the local area. I might have one set up for brand. It really does depend on the market, but ideally you'd have anywhere between 1 and 5 or 6. Most people would have. You're unlikely to want many more than that. Okay, so we're on slide 17. Okay, so I just showed you how to identify their IP addresses and then how to exclude them. Okay, and this is the screenshot that you would then be looking for. And I am going to give you obviously the presentation for this, so you'll be able to see this at the end of the presentation. And I am going to find out why you can't see, because this did happen to me on the course the other day as well. I'm not sure why it is that some people's we're not seeing these settings anymore. Unfortunately, Google have obviously changed it so that some of the advanced settings are invisible. Okay, so here's what you've learned so far today. You've learned how to avoid the top 3 mistakes that all new advertisers make, and realizing that your adverts must match your keywords. You need to do thorough keyword research, and you must include negative keywords to stop yourself from wasting cash. I then showed you how to set up a new campaign and a new ad group so that it matched the keyword. And then I then showed you how to write really great adverts. If you follow the tips I showed you today, you should be getting click-throughs of, I would say, around about, probably somewhere between 3 and 5%, I would hope. So do pop along to Facebook and Twitter and let me know if you do get those click-through rates. I'd be really interested to hear. And then I've also shown you how to stop your competitors from clicking or even from viewing your adverts. They'll think you stopped advertising. Okay, so I'm not sure why you showed up today. So it could be because you're brand new to AdWords and you wanted to learn whether it can work for your business, or maybe your AdWords account just isn't making you any money at the moment. It could be because your business is expanding and you want to look at AdWords to bring in some new leads. So I've developed an AdWords membership website that hopefully will answer all your questions. And it contains 32 videos that are only short videos. So somebody asked us the other day, how long is this going to take me to watch? But then there's more being added each week to keep it up to date. And there's then step-by-step processes, instructions, and all the full course manuals that you would have got if you'd have come on the face-to-face courses. And it's then lifetime updates, so every month there's new content, there's new webinars being uploaded, there's new videos being recorded, because obviously AdWords changing totally all the time. As I told you about that DVD I recorded back in 2009 that I can no longer sell, it's just totally out of date. So the product that I mentioned earlier, Red Hot Web Leads, I'll just start briefly mentioning about that now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure as I'm going through and talking about it, I'm going to mention lots of things you can do with AdWords that I'm hoping that you'll still find useful to know. So I'll show you what keywords to bid upon by showing you a keyword pathway that allows you to get inside visitors' heads to understand which keywords will result in buyers and which won't. So that's really important. Some of the keywords you're bidding on might not even be relevant. How to steal your competitors' keywords and adverts. So there are tools that we can use for doing this. So it's a shortcut to setting up your account. I'll show you exactly how to use the tools to get the keywords that work for your competitors. So it will actually show you the return on investment that the keywords that they're using are getting, and the adverts that are currently working for them. And it does that by seeing how often they show them. If they show them a lot, then it presumes that they're working for them. So that's the best way to setting up a new account from day one. Then also show you how to track your results, so how to set up conversion tracking so you can track leads and sales throughout your website, and how to track phone calls as well. And yes, you can do that. And this is so important. Without tracking it, it's called optimizing blind, as you just cannot see what's working and what isn't working. I've then got tools that allow you to build hundreds of AdWords ad groups extremely quickly. So instead of actually having to build each one that I showed you today, so if you had a list of 500 keywords, instead of having to build each one of those, I show you tools to build it really quickly, so how you can build it in a couple of hours. And then processes for you to follow step by step. And then also how to set up adverts for mobile phones and iPads. And as well as that, we've then got a Facebook group that is allows you to get your questions answered and networking with like-minded people. Okay, so if you'd like to learn exactly how to set up your AdWords account step by step and then what to do each week on an ongoing basis, I have developed a system which shows you in month 1 how to set up your campaigns and your ad groups effectively using keywords that work. And then in month 2, it shows you how to manage your campaigns in less than half an hour every week. And then in month 3, all the advanced techniques and processes that you need so that you get to become really, really good. And then every month I'm then uploading new videos and webinars so that you can stay on top of everything that is introducing. Okay, so we've got a 60-day guarantee that you'll be happy with the course, and if you're not, then just let me know and you get all your money back. And you get your Facebook group to get all your questions answered, monthly questions and answer webinars. Send your question in and then I'll answer it live on the webinar. New videos are uploaded every month so that you stay on top of the competition. Okay, so right, my product's called redhotwebleads.com and it's on sale for a 7-day trial for just £3.50 plus VAT. So that works out at £4.20. And then after your 7-day trial, it then becomes £39.50 plus VAT per month. And when you go to the website and click the Get Access Now button, then you see a form that looks like the one that I've shown you there, jvzoo.com, and that actually takes you in and it actually sets up through PayPal. So I just wanted to mention briefly that we've got a slight problem with JVZoo. Sometimes has been causing a problem at the moment with setting it up. If you try and buy it and you have a problem, then I've set up an alternative link, which is clairejarrett.com/buy, and that then takes you into the PayPal system. And that's if you want to buy it directly through PayPal instead. And that sets you up with the £3.50 plus VAT for the first 7 days and then £39.50 a month. Now your username and password will then be sent through. It will either come through automatically, but it might take up to an hour. Okay, so don't worry if you don't get it through immediately. So I've just got to answer to a couple of questions here. So can I cancel at the end of the 7-day trial? Yes, and we'll email you a reminder when you've been a member for 6 days. If you want to pay in dollars, not pounds, you can through JVZoo, so that's not a problem. And it won't add the tax on for you either. Will you set up my account for me? So this is really important. And no, this is a series of videos that will show you how to set your account up yourself. Do you offer email support for the actual AdWords? No, all support is done through the Facebook group. Okay, so it's really important that you ask your questions through the Facebook group where there are people there who will then be answering it for you. And if you prefer that you would have me to do it for you instead, then that is possible. If you really don't want to touch AdWords yourself at all, that is possible, but you would just need to email us at team@clairejarrett.com and then ask for the details. Okay, I've got a couple of questions coming up. I will answer those very, very shortly. Okay, so just a very quick reminder. Month 1, step-by-step how to set your account up correctly. Month 2, step-by-step instructions to perfect your campaign and get it delivering in half an hour per week. Month 3, advanced techniques and processes. They're short videos showing each step, so each month you'll only need to devote a couple of hours per month, and then the system's updated continuously each month with new content. You can get all your questions answered in our private Facebook group where you can network with other people and ask questions. So it's redhotwebleads.com. Okay, so it's £3.50 for a 7-day trial. Feel free to cancel at any time with the 7 days. You will get a reminder after 6 days if you want to cancel it. And it's then £39.50 plus VAT per month. And it includes all the videos to set up your campaign to get it running properly. Okay, and there, as I mentioned, there's a 60-day guarantee. Okay, so it's everything that you need to get your account set up properly and manage it in less than half an hour per week and become an expert at AdWords. Plus regular updates so that you stay ahead of the competition and then get all your questions answered in our Facebook group. Okay, so, right. Okay, so I've got a couple of questions coming up that I'm now going to answer. So Ashley said, how do you know what your competitors' keywords are? I show you the tools that you can use for finding out what keywords they're actually bidding on. Okay, so that is part of the content that we do show you is how to look at your competitors. What monthly budget would you expect to pay for success? Giles has asked. I've had people join it on a couple of pounds per day that they're spending. I've had people join it on £1,000 a month that they're spending. You know, it really is, it's entirely up to you. Some people manage their own campaigns when they're spending a few thousand a month. You know, at the end of the day, no one cares for your business the way that you do. So, you know, it really is a good idea to master AdWords yourself. Ashley's asked, is it charged month by month? No, there's, or are you tied into a contract term? There's no contract, Ashley. So you basically cancel whenever you want. Okay. So somebody's also asked, can anyone join the Facebook group? And the answer is no. Obviously, it's a private Facebook group, and it's where obviously where paid members do network and get their questions answered. Okay, so that's the link to go and download the slides, and then do feel free to drop a comment on there as well. And then I hope to see some of you shortly in the Facebook group. And I am hanging around now for the next 10 minutes if anybody wants to ask any more questions. So what do I think of a live chat on the landing page? I think it can work for certain markets. It depends what market you're in. I mean, I have tested it a couple of times. It's great for people who've got, you know, it's great for markets where people have got really short questions, where they just want a does this come in green or does this fit a size 10 type of approach. So it can work in that instance. Whether or not it works on selling services like accountancy, I'm not entirely sure. You know, so I think you'd probably have to test it to be sure. Okay, a couple more questions coming through. Is Clicky particularly useful, asks Laura, or do other site trackers work? I've fallen in love with Clicky. I use Clicky and Analytics, and that's it. So I've got very little experience with the others, but I love Clicky because it allows me to spy in real time when I've set an account live. So it means that I can instantly spot what's happening, and it's great if you've just sent an email out and you want to see the effects of the email. So I'm afraid, Laura, that I've got no other experience with other site trackers, unfortunately. Greg's asked, should an account be set up in an email address of the domain? It doesn't matter. It's very common for people to set it up using Gmail accounts, obviously, because that's Google for you. So no, it's no worries if you're only setting up using a Gmail account. Okay, I've got somebody asking about the AdWords certificate. Well, ideally, you would go through material to actually make sure that you know how to set accounts up properly, manage accounts for a good period of time, a couple of accounts at least, get familiar with the interface, and then start studying the material before sitting the exam, rather than just dryly studying the material, because that means that you don't have the application for your theory then. So it's a good idea to do it while you're managing accounts. So do I have information how much people use AdWords in Serbia? I don't. No, I'm afraid I don't, Sonia. Yeah. You could probably take a look at something called Google Trends and have a look and see how much people search in Google Trends. There's probably a way of looking in Serbia how much people search for certain terms in Google Trends. So try looking at Google Trends and seeing if that helps. Lots of people saying thanks, so thank you very much. Glad you enjoyed it. If I become an expert in AdWords, are there jobs out there? Oh my goodness, yes, there's lots and lots of jobs out here. So my son is, my son's 20 and he worked for me for a couple of years, and if he sends out CVs to agencies, then they get back to him within half an hour and they're fighting over him. It is very easy to get jobs in this market because it's such a rare skill that the agencies will be fighting over you, but you do need the experience as well. So ideally it would be a case of getting an apprenticeship or something similar with a company, and then you can do some freelancing work. So Richard, you've said that most companies deal with agencies like myself, and I don't run an agency anymore. I sold my agency, so I work as a freelancer now. And there's a lot of freelancers like me around, and yes, there is a lot of work to be had. So Nick's asked, is SEO better for the long term? Excuse me. Nick, it's probably a good idea to be using AdWords and SEO at the same time, because for some terms they have statistically proven that 40% of the buying of the clicks for buyers, for a high search intent they're likely to buy, like the buy Nikon 1410 camera search that I mentioned earlier, 40% of the clicks would go to the top 3 in the AdWords box and in the cream color box. So you're losing out on a lot of the potential market. And as well as that, with AdWords, you can change the adverts, you can include promotions. With SEO, you're there, but obviously you're losing click-throughs because you can't include promotions. You can't do special things with it like you can with AdWords. So ideally it's better to look at both, and most companies do look at both for the long term. So Bob's asked, will this work for affiliate-based sites? There's no reason why not. There are special rules with affiliates. So you have to be very careful with your landing pages. So don't include a plain landing page where you have just a squeeze page, as in just a one-page sales site. You've got to make sure that you've got a variety of other pages on the site as well. So obviously your privacy policy, your terms and conditions, and ideally I'd be tempted to pop a blog on there and some other content as well, so that AdWords or Google do not like affiliate sites, but they will let you get the traffic through if they can see that you're offering value. So you need to make sure you're offering value. Okay, so Ian said, any quick tips for 2 websites selling the same product which need to be in the same AdWord account per their policies? I would separate them out and bid on them separately. I know it's their policies, but I've had this lots of times where it's the same company but bidding under different websites. So I've worked with lots and lots of companies doing this. So my advice would be set the website up differently with a different brand name, and then you'll be fine. More people saying thank you. Yeah, lovely, thank you. So how do I save the slides to be able to go back to, says Giles. On that page, clairejarrett.com, webinar slides, there should be a link which allows you to download it, and you should then be able to go to File, Save As, and you should then be able to save it as a PDF document. So hopefully that'll work for you, Giles. Okay, so Tina's asked, what would I charge to manage a campaign? Tina, it's probably best if you email me at team@clairejarrett.com, because it really does depend on what the product is that you're selling and the amount of work involved in setting up the campaign. Lots more messages saying, thanks, really enjoyed it. Somebody asking if I'll be doing another similar webinar anytime soon. I am doing another one in a couple of weeks' time, but it's one for customers of names.co.uk. So if you've got hosting with names.co.uk, then you can come on it. If not, then I probably will be able to make the recording available. But it is my plan to start doing more regular webinars from now on. So we've got, will Google rate my landing page lower because of a live chat? No, they won't. That's not one of the factors. So we've got Sandy said, thank you, wasted money on AdWords, but ready to give it another go. Brilliant, lovely to hear it. So I've got lots of people here saying that. We've got Ian saying thank you, you're welcome, Bob, you're welcome, Greg. Okay, so lots and lots of thank you messages. Okay, so yep, no problem, Greg. Greg said thank you for answering so many questions. Bob says, where can you find the rules for affiliate marketers? Do you know? I don't know. I'm not 100% sure about that. I think it's probably one of those things that they keep quite hidden. I would start off by looking for Google's site policies and take it from there, because I'm sure that there will be something in there for affiliate marketers. I'm hoping you'll find it in there. So Alicia said, should I leave the keyword as positive if it's a name of the competitor? Yes, do, but just don't put the competitor name into the advert heading. Just make it a generic. Just make it about your product instead. So Sharon said the slides link doesn't seem to work for me. Right, let me go and double check. Let's go and have a look. And I will show you, hopefully, to download it. Okay, now what should happen is it should be a document here. Let's try right-clicking it, save link as, and you should then be able to save it. Okay, so that then meant that I saved it as a PDF document. Okay, so you want this link here, right-click, save link as. Okay, and then that will download it as a PDF document. So Mark's saying, do I offer a white label service? Mark, again, that's one of those questions that probably best if you email me at team@clairejarrett.com, and then we can have a chat tomorrow. I'm around the office tomorrow, so we can have a chat tomorrow. And then Sonia said, can you spend several vouchers on one firm? Not recommended. Your account would get banned. Don't ever use more than one voucher. That's how to get banned. Lots of people saying thank you again. Yeah, brilliant. Giles saying we sell home textiles, and with 1,800 products and have a fairly small budget, would you recommend lots of campaigns? I would recommend one campaign per product line. So for each of your, so for example, if you had duvets in one, sheets in another campaign, so that it was better organized for your, for your organization, so that it makes more sense for you, would be what I would suggest. Yep, you're welcome, everybody. I've got lots more people saying thank you. You can't find the recording yet because the recording's not finished. What will happen is I will stop the recording when the webinar is finished. I will then email you the link tomorrow once I've managed to upload it to YouTube, provided that it's worked, which I'm sure it will do. Nick said, is there a list of what Google wants to see when you're looking at websites? So that it ranks well. So in terms of I'm not sure if you mean SEO there, because SEO is obviously a different topic. So if you're talking about whether Google wants to see a good website for AdWords policies so that you won't break its terms and conditions, then I would suggest that you type into Google AdWords site policies and then just go and review whatever lists you see on the Google page, because there will be lots and lots of lists. Okay, lots more people saying thank you. Let me just see if I've missed any questions. Okay, I think we're nearly done. Oh, no. Emma said, I'm a small handmade natural skincare business. Should I create an ad for every product I make or keep it general with keywords like handmade natural skincare? Emma, I would strongly suggest that you focus in quite strongly. Handmade natural skincare is probably going to be the more expensive keywords for you. I would focus in as far as you can with your cocoa butter and shea butter, is that how you pronounce it? I would focus in with terms that are more specific. Handmade natural skincare, probably you're going to be up against some of the bigger sites that have got bigger advertising budgets. They're much better established. I would be going in much more so on the more focused keywords. Okay, so I hope that helps. So Giles said, what's the difference between campaigns and ad groups? A campaign is where you organize your ad groups. So campaign contains the ad group. So you would have a campaign set up per product, like per product type. So as I said, like you might have one for sheets and one for duvets. And then inside the campaign, you would then have ad groups set up for things like maybe you might have white Egyptian cotton sheets, and then you might have black Egyptian cotton sheets. So really specific ad groups, with each ad group with that as the keyword. Okay, so campaigns are the overall container object. Right, okay, so I will end it there, and I'll send the recording round to you tomorrow if I am able to. I'm just trying to see that I've still got more questions coming through. So I've got Beach saying, okay, yep, lovely. So going to give my details to a friend, fantastic. So Thomas saying, on setting up a campaign, would you rather set your maximum cost per click bids or select AdWords will select your bids? Thomas, never let AdWords do anything by itself, because Google loves spending your money wherever possible. So this is one of my pet hates, is the fact that Google set it to default of wasting your money. Always set it yourself. Anytime there's any option to do things automatically, don't let it, because ideally it's you who should be looking after it, you who should be managing it. Don't let Google do it, because Google has Google's best interests at heart. Okay, right, I'm going to end it there. Thank you very much, everybody. And it was lovely to chat with you all, and I'll look forward to the next one.